If you think about it, this guy is basically the One Piece version of Jiraiya. Let's just hope that it doesn't end up the same way. Hello everyone, how's it going? We have a really simple and straightforward chapter of One Piece this week, with the biggest thing that happened, of course, being my boy Scopper Gaban finally making an appearance in the story. That is not in a cover story or in a flashback. Before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And now, without further ado, let's get right into the chapter. First, of course, is the cover story, where this week we see that Who's Who has apparently captured some rebels. I have no idea who these guys could possibly be. If someone has any clue who these guys could be, let me know in the comments. But if I had to guess, gun to my head, I would probably say that this is Osuru and Minatomo, since they are the only two people that come to mind. Now, moving on to the main chapter, this week we have a very straightforward chapter, where we just follow Luffy and the gang in their search through the castle, looking for the key to Loki's chains, with very few cutaways towards the end that serve to set up the reveal at the end. As the gang are traveling through the castle, Zoro once again reiterates that just attempting to free Loki is considered a heinous crime on Elbaf, and as a result, only Chief Yarul and a few other elder giants like him know about the location of the key to his chains. And as he is telling them this, they end up arriving at the throne room, which appears to be in a destroyed state as well, similar to the rest of the castle. However, it is pointed out that the rubble here looks more recent. That, as well as the fact that the summoning circle is painted onto the floor, and the fact that the treasury hidden behind the throne was looted, all of this leads me to believe that there might be a traitor on Elbaf. Since after all, it was specifically mentioned in this very chapter that only a few people even know the location of the treasury to begin with. Of course, it's possible that someone else could have just discovered its location by exploring the place like Scopper did, which would explain the recency of the rubble. But there is still the fact that the summoning circle, used by the upper echelons of the world government, has been drawn into the throne room of the castle. Actually, now that I think about it, this could maybe also imply that King Harald was actually a traitor and was secretly collaborating with the government. That would also explain why Loki fought him, since as we already know, Loki does not really have a very positive opinion of the celestial dragons. And that would also be a good way for Oda to make Loki an ally of the Straw Hats, which is the direction that I think Oda is taking the story. Speaking of the summoning circle, Nami actually mentions that she has seen something similar in a book before, and they are apparently used in some countries in rituals to summon demons. And this is actually not the first time demon summoning has been mentioned in the story either, because if you remember, when the crew was separated by Kuma pre-time skip, Brook actually landed in the middle of a demon summoning ritual, and the people there assumed that he was the demon that they had succeeded in summoning. So it's interesting to think about what this could mean. Were the celestial dragons, who fashioned themselves as gods, actually demons all along? I guess we will have to wait and see. Also, I would like to point out that out of the people that are here, Luffy was the only one that was also present when the Gorosei was summoned using similar circles in Egghead. And I really doubt he is going to make the connection without someone else helping him. Moving on, while the gang is pondering about the markings on the ground, someone calls out to them. And that someone happens to be an ex-pirate that Rodo refers to as Sarya, who is actually Ripley's human partner that was mentioned a few chapters ago. That is to say, Colan's father. This Mr. Ya mentions that he came to the castle because he felt a strange surge of haki from here earlier. Probably either from the summoning or maybe even whatever Gunko did to the giant guards earlier. Because that whole thing doesn't really seem to fit in with her devil fruit powers, at least based on what we have seen so far. Mr. Ya also mentions that he has heard about Luffy beating Kaido and wanted to meet him, also mentioning that he would love to visit Wano again since it's been a while. I guess that would explain his whole getup. and the fact that Rodo seems to talk like a samurai. I guess we now know who we can blame for that. He also mentions that Colon is 20 years old and apparently Ripley is 80. He then starts ranting about his philosophy on love, during which he mentions a race called the Dosundadas, which are the only race out of the ones he mentioned that have never been mentioned before as far as I am aware. We have seen the others, with the Buccaneers, of course being Kuma's people, the long arms and the long legs. We have seen a few of before as well, with Ideo, Apu and Bluegilly being the most prominent ones. And we have actually seen a Wotan before as well, that being Big Pan, or I guess Big Bun, as Wiz translated it, from Foxy's crew way back in the day. I am really curious about these Dosundadas, since there has to be a reason Oda chose to mention them for the first time this far into the story. Not to mention the fact that they were mentioned right after the Buccaneers, and by a former member of the Roger Pirates, I might add. So I am really looking forward to whenever these guys make an appearance in the story. Moving on, after Mr. Ya gives his philosophy on love, Luffy says that this is probably what Sanji will end up like one day, before, in typical Luffy fashion, blurting out to Mr. Ya that they are looking for the key that can free Loki, despite the fact that it's supposed to be a secret. But it's actually a good thing that he did, because as it turns out, Mr. Ya actually knows where the key is. Although before he tells them that, he reiterates to Luffy and the gang that Loki is a dangerous fellow, and asks Luffy what he would do if Loki decided to act up once he was released from the chain. To which of course, Luffy responds that he would just beat him up and put the chains back on him. Mr. Ya likes this response, since it reminds him of a certain individual. We all know who that is, of course. After that, we do some cutaways to Oimo and Kashi, telling Usopp and the gang, who are still at the feast, about the other monstrous fighter on Roger's crew, aside from Rayleigh, mentioning that this man once fought off hundreds of pirates on a mountain with just 2 axes. And during that process, all the trees on the mountain were also cut down, and thus he earned the name Mountain Eater. Although I can think of another reason, if you know what I mean. After they bring that up, we cut back to Luffy's group, who have entered the secret treasure chamber of the castle with Mr. Ya's guidance. And here they find, to Nami's disappointment, that the treasure chamber has already been looted. Mr. Ya points out that the castle has been left unattended for a long time, so that was bound to happen. But we see that the key to Loki's chains are still here. Mr. Ya points out that this is because even criminals don't want to free Loki. After which, he tells Luffy and the gang that if they want the key, they will have to go through him. This is where it is finally revealed that this Mr. Ya is in fact the left hand of the Pirate King, Scopper Gaban. So apparently Wiz got the romanization of his name wrong, and Gaban is the actual romanization, since otherwise his nickname Mr. Ya wouldn't really make a ton of sense. And with that reveal, the chapter ends, and it seems that there will be a break next week. All in all, this was a great chapter of One Piece, where we find out some really interesting stuff, such as the fact that magic circles apparently exist in One Piece, and are also well known enough to be featured in books, and being described as tools to summon demons, which of course implies that despite the fact that the celestial dragons refer to themselves as gods, they might actually be demons. Then there is the mention of this as yet unknown race in One Piece called the Dosundadas. I am curious what role they will play in the series. And finally, there is the introduction of Ripley's human husband that was mentioned earlier, and the fact that this husband is none other than the left hand of the Pirate King, Scopper Gaban himself, who made his first appearance in the manga all the way back in chapter 19 during Buggy's flashback, although he doesn't appear in the anime during this part. And his name was first revealed in the One Piece Blue Deep data book all the way back in 2012. So it's a monumental occasion to finally have him introduced in the story proper, outside of the Oden flashback of course. Chapter 1139 should probably be considered a historic chapter for this introduction alone. And it seems that there will be a break after this chapter, so I will see you in the next chapter whenever that comes out. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe. Bye bye.